What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of BR's Draft Board Show. I'm Trevor Sikkema, the lead draft analyst from Pro Football Focus, here to talk a little bit of NFL draft with you guys for the next 30 minutes. A couple of weeks ago, we went through my top 10 quarterbacks for the 2026 NFL draft. All subject to change, of course, but this is a good primer for you guys as we go down the initial position list. And today what we're doing is we're moving on to running backs. We're going to talk about the running back spot. I know all you fantasy football people out there, especially the Devy and Dynasty communities, are going to be listening very closely on this one. See if you can find some league winners in. There's at least one name here in this crop that I think could really bolster not just your fantasy teams, but your real teams in real life as well if you get one of these guys, especially the guy at the very top. We'll talk about my top fives. We'll do a little film breakdown for each one of those guys, talk about the things that they do well right now and maybe some areas where they can improve, maybe some areas that might hold them back from being top first round pick, I should say, running back options, because I know that's always a little bit of a taboo conversation anyways. Like, oh, do you take running backs in the first round? And again, we'll talk about one that I think is absolutely worth it and maybe what some of these other guys can bring to the table as well. We'll talk about a sleeper. We'll talk about a guy who I think is just very underrated in this class, regardless of where he's going to get drafted. And then we'll talk about a player who I've seen their name up in first round and top 50 conversations in this running back class, but I would say that there's still things that I need to see more from this player when it comes to the value that we're going to get from them and whether or not they should be viewed that highly. So let's dig into it. Let's get into my top 5 running backs for the 2026 NFL draft. As it stands today at the beginning of December, Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. He has to be the number 1 running back here on the list. And the reason why is because, well, the stats kind of speak for themselves, right? He's going to be in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony, or at least he should be. And he's somebody who, the explosiveness, the pass catching ability, some of the run block, the yards after contact, the contact balance, all of that stuff, he just does at an elite level. Size, speed, strength. It's all there for Jeremiah Love. This is somebody who, when he was in high school, he was a track athlete, ran that sub 11 40-yard dash, had a long jump of over 22 feet. And some guys, they're track athletes that just happen to put on football helmets, right? And then you get other guys who truly take that track athleticism to the football field and they can combine that athletic ability. Jeremiah Love is absolutely one of those players. You see some of the numbers from PFF Premium Stats on the screen right now. An elite 93.4 rushing grade on the season. He has 56 missed tackles forced, which is a number that we're going to talk about a lot here because it's one of my favorites to identify what a running back does independent of their offensive line, because that's always the conversation with running backs, right? Is it the offensive line in front of them, or is it really their own individual ability? It's often a mix of both, right? That's why football is the ultimate team game. But when you take missed tackles forced, that showcases how dynamic a back is at any point in time, right? You can force a missed tackle 2 yards beyond the line of scrimmage if your offensive line blocks things up really well. You can force a missed tackle at the line of scrimmage if it's sort of an even matchup between the O-line and the D-line. You can even force missed tackles in the backfield if your offensive line lets you down, if some guy gets through really early. And so that missed tackles forced number, and a lot of times we like to lean on missed tackles forced per attempt, that's something that we like to look at as a stable metric that shows you how dynamic a player is. And for Jeremiah Love, let's break down the first good play that we have here from him, because I think this will showcase the ability. It'll show you exactly what I'm looking at here from Jeremiah Love. So let's pull this up. So this is their game against Pittsburgh. And we're gonna watch this at regular speed once, and then we'll probably go back and I'll pause it so you guys can see. But we're all just gonna sit back and watch this incredible run from him. Okay, he's patient. The foot's in the ground. There's the incredible spin move. Whoop! Goodbye, Chris Berman style. And did you see how he erased the angle from number 7? I said that we were going to let it play all the way out. Look at this. Number 7 has so much of a head start on him. Now, I know at this point in time, it's not the best angle, but he should be able to catch him and make this tackle, not for a touchdown. But Jeremiah Love, I mentioned that track speed, bringing that to the football field, that explosiveness, that is what this guy does. He's got the getaway speed. He's got that explosiveness. It's just unbelievable. I think we got another angle at this that we could take a look at. Okay, all sorts of clutter, right? There's all sorts of clutter here at the line of scrimmage. you see the rush lane opening up, but he has to be patient for it. He has to be patient for that to open up. That's why you see almost a little bit of that Le'Veon Bell style where you put the ball in his stomach and then it's just, okay, I'm creeping up just a couple of feet. But then the second he realizes it's time to turn on the jets here, and even, okay, so he even had to wait for this. So the original rushing goal was right here, but instead he had his blockers moving things in this direction. So he was able to cut it back. I know I'm drawing a ton here for you guys, but he's able to cut this back and then get all the way up the field. This is so impressive from him. The spin move, I mean, speaks for itself, just how unbelievable of an athlete he is. And so to me, that's a play. I will watch it at a different angle. It's so good. We'll watch from this third angle. That spin move's unbelievable. Again, it's the Chris Berman. What? Right there, right in front of us. I feel like we got to have that as the the soundtrack to that run there. That's exactly what Jeremiah Love brings to the table. Home run ability. And when you're talking about backs that have first round value for you, that's part of the conversation here. You've got to be able to take those yards above expectation and really hit it through the roof. That's when you really get that value there. Now, in terms of where he could be better, I talked about 3-down ability from Jeremiah Love. Now, let's take another look at a play that happened, I believe this is later in the game, but at some point in that Pittsburgh game, you're going to see a play action with him, and he's not going to get the football, but it's also his job to pick up the blitzer that's going, I believe it's this linebacker that's just going to be coming downhill, and he just does not do a great job of it. So you see that linebacker coming straight down, because whether Jeremiah Love was going to get the ball or not, this linebacker's assignment was to attack the pocket, get into the backfield here. And I'll slow this down because I think this is probably better viewed at half speed. Just watch Love. Okay? So he doesn't get the football. He's got the opportunity to meet this guy right here. Right here. Give his quarterback a little bit more time to scan the field and throw the ball. But unfortunately, he tries to throw a shoulder in there, and Zero just gets right past it. And Love obviously is forced to watch this guy get straight into the face of his quarterback and right into that throwing window. That is something that Jeremiah Love has to improve upon, because he brings you 3-down ability. He's really good as a receiver. You want to put him in there on third downs, but you can't have guys in there on third down if they can't pass protect, because then he become a little bit too one-dimensional. Teams know that, oh, this guy can't pass protect. They're not going to be passing the ball. They're going to be handing it off. You never want to tip your pitches in any way, shape, or form. And just to be honest with you, Jeremiah Love brings so much athleticism to the field that you want him on the field at all times. And so in order for him to be that, he has to be a better pass blocker. Now, I should say more consistent, because there are plenty of times this year when we have seen him be a great pass blocker. But what we need to see from him is consistency, which I think is something that you kind of need to see from every single back. So that's Jeremiah Love. Fantastic. I absolutely believe that he is not only in the first round conversation, the top 10 conversation. All right, let's talk about the guy who's next on my list. Jonah Coleman, the running back from Washington, who was at Arizona previously. Now he's at Washington. He's somebody who, man, his game is so much fun. He's like, honestly, he's like 5'10". I think they have him listed at 5'10". He might be even short of that. It might be like 5'8", 5'9", but he is a bowling ball. He is so tough to bring down. He's got great contact balance. His body type is so dense. It just looks like it hurts trying to tackle this guy. And we'll break down a play from him in a second. But again, it's that missed tackles forced stat that I love from Jonah Coleman, that he's been so fantastic with logging missed tackles forced throughout his entire career. And here at Washington, it's much of the same. Now, what I want you guys to pay attention to right there is the zone rushing grade versus gap scheme rushing grade, because we're going to break that down here in a second with film. And these are the kind of numbers that you guys can see over at PFF.com on our PFF Big Board with the PFF Premium Stats account. You can see stuff like this for every single player. So there's a difference, because we would like for our backs to be great at both, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're more stylistic. Sometimes they are guys who it's a little bit less of, yeah, draft them and they'll be phenomenal no matter what offense they are in. I think that Jonah Coleman can be very good in any offense that he is in, but clearly I just think he is better when he is behind zone blocking schemes. It goes a little bit more towards what he does well as a rusher. You see those missed tackles forced again, 9 carries at 15 or more yards. Those are the stats that we have for Coleman. So let's bring up the film on Coleman next. Let's talk about the good. I was somebody who is really big on Bucky Irving when he was coming out about a year and a half ago with his rookie year last year. So the draft before, I loved Bucky because it's not that he was the fastest back in the world. He wasn't this true home run hitter with sub 11 track speed like we saw from Jeremiah Love. But every time you handed this guy the ball, he was getting you 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yards per carry. And often it was because he was bouncing off the first tackle and he was getting much more. He also had great one cut ability. And if you will watch this play, that's what Jonah Coleman has. Watch it. So it's going to be a zone blocking scheme to the left. So all the offensive linemen and all the blockers are going to be going to the left, which is going to create a rush lane for him to see right about here. And when he sees it, watch how quickly he puts his foot in the ground. Watch how quickly he's able to execute that one cut ability to not just get to the line of scrimmage, not just get through the line of scrimmage and see the run lane, but get beyond that as well. It's so much fun to watch, and you got to kind of pay attention to it because, boom, there's the jump cut. He went to the outside, actually. He went one gap further than I thought he was going to go, but that's beautiful. That's what you want to see from this guy. That's that jump cut ability that is still there from him. I'm going to try to pause this exactly where I need to. So look at this. He's got the opportunity. Now that he's got the ball, he has the opportunity. Okay, I could go here, right? This is a potential rush lane that he has through the zone blocking scheme and how the offensive linemen were executing it. But he sees Arvell Reese right here. You never want to run right at Arvell Reese. And if you don't know Arvell Reese yet, he could be the number 1 overall pick of the upcoming draft. So he's able to hop, get to this other gap, and go all the way past the clutter in the trenches. Now you've got him in the open field. This is also where he does a lot of his great work because you see him already putting his foot in the ground once again, making this safety miss, getting some more yards after that. It's what Jonah Coleman does best. So that was him behind zone blocking schemes. Let's pull up a play where he is behind a gap scheme run blocking play. So I believe this is against Illinois here. And you will see this where this is a duo combination where we're getting a double team here, we're getting a double team look here, and you'll notice he'll have a couple of different options of where he could go. And he hesitates a little bit. And Jonah Coleman's at his best when he's got momentum because he's one of those few guys that has the ability to cut and change direction while he has momentum. And when you're operating behind a power run blocking scheme, a lot of times it's a little more patience. You're letting your blockers, form in front of you. Sometimes it's with pullers on counter plays. And Coleman is much better when you get him on those inside, mid, and outside zones because he can get his momentum going. And then he is one of those players that doesn't have to slow down in order to change direction. So watch, you'll see this, and he gets to this point, and there's a little jump cut here, but he just kind of has that hesitation. And look, it's a 2nd and 1 play. He's getting the first down. I understand that. And that's obviously a job well done because it allows him to get the first down. But if we rewind it a little bit here, he has an option where he can go here, and I think it's a bigger run. He could go to the outside, and I think it's got a chance to be a bigger run, even with this linebacker here. And instead, he just says, hey, I'm going to power through. I'm going to get the first down. And again, that's not the worst thing in the world, but I wanted to show these plays back to back because you saw how quick Jonah Coleman was operating behind that zone blocking scheme play. There's no hesitation. It's all gas from him. Even when he's changing direction, you see that. It's just all gas. That's what you want to see from him more often than not. So Jonah Coleman brings that elusiveness, brings that breaking tackle ability that you love to see. He's not a home run hitter, I would say, with his overall top speed. But man, he gives you Bucky Irving vibes. And anybody who's watched Bucky Irving when he was at Oregon or when he's been healthy in Tampa Bay knows that you'll take that type of a player. Klein in the chat is asking, is this a weaker running back class than last year, you think? I would say yes, right? I mean, you had 2 backs going in the first round this year. I don't think we're getting 2 backs in the first round this year. I think you had a handful of them there in the second round. It is, in my opinion, a weaker class overall from the running back position, but there's going to be a lot of really good complementary guys. And recognizing where their skill sets are, I think that's why that makes this exercise so important. We'll go back to Notre Dame for my number 3 running back, and that's Jadarian Price, somebody who I think has come out of nowhere. We've talked about Jeremiah Love even when he wasn't draft eligible yet. We talked about how great Jeremiah Love is, but this guy, Jadarian Price, he's come out of nowhere. I mean, he's another player who 5'11", 210, 215 pounds. I mean, he runs behind his pads. And you see from Jadarian Price as well, that zone rushing grade of an 80.0, the gap scheme rushing grade of a 69.5. He's got 11 carries of 15 or more yards like the ones that you're seeing on the screen here. And the stat that I really love from him that we have over at PFF and Premium Stats is that yards after contact per attempt average. 3.92. It's almost a 4.0 yards after contact average from Jadarian Price. And I think that he is somebody who he's still getting a good feel for, like I said, those power rushing concepts. But man, when it's blocked up well for him, he is somebody who can also take it to the house. Let's dive into his film as well. Let's look at this first play from Jadarian Price. And it's this game against Miami. So very early in the year, it's this first game here for Notre Dame. Watch what Jadarian Price is able to do here. He follows his blockers very well. So I like that timing. I said that he still needs to work on this, but this is a play when it works out really well. Watch him follow this puller here. You'll see it's a counter concept where these guys are pulling to the right. You see him have some patience there, but boom, watch that. That's what I love about Jadarian Price. Falling forward, good contact balance. Where does he get hit? Let's take a look at exactly where he gets hit here. He's getting hit by this dude right here, coming straight at him. So he gets hit right here at the 48. Where does he eventually go down? He's not going down until the 42, the 43. That's 5 yards after contact. That's what we're talking about. Those yards above expectations. Some dudes will go flying, and they wouldn't be able to get a couple of extra steps. And sometimes a couple of extra steps make the world of a difference. Could be getting you a first down, could be getting into the end zone, whatever it is. And Jadarian Price has that strength and that contact balance to be able to do something like that. I think we have another angle of this one here so you can see it a little bit better. You see the pulling play right there. You see the counter play, and you see him take this hit and then get a couple more steps afterwards, make sure that he is falling forward, diving forward. He's getting every single yard he possibly can. Now, let's take a look at Haynes. Oh, that's actually Justice Haynes, who we're going to talk about here in a second after this. But here it is, Jadarian Price. So this is, I think this is against Stanford. This is one of their recent games that I saw this one that I wanted to point this out. So here's Price. Here's a cutback route, but he just doesn't have that same sort of confidence. He just doesn't have that same sort of confidence. This is a split zone play. You see the blocker here. The wing back to tight end, he's coming across the line of scrimmage while everybody else is going to be blocking to the left. And so it's going to create this run lane right here, but it's this hesitancy from Jadarian Price that I want to see. I just want to see him run more confidently, to be honest with you, because he's got the strength, he's got the athletic ability. Man, hit it. Just hit it a little bit faster. I know you can. I know you can be a little bit more confident in that regard. So he's somebody I think is very physically gifted, but I think the lack of snaps overall from him is something that we'll just have to monitor from him. I know a lot of people really love him. He's having an incredible year. Notre Dame is. Feels like they're going to make the college football playoff, but we'll see. I think they're getting another bowl game after this, so we'll see if Jadarian Price is even in this class. But if he is, I think he's a high potential player. I think Justice Haynes from Michigan is the next person that we've got to talk about here on this list, because this is somebody who, again, 5'11", 210, 215, built like an NFL running back. Some running back classes, you have guys that are a little bit lighter. You know, you have like, okay, well, it's a class full of 195-pound speedsters. This class has got some dudes. This class has got some dudes that have been in the weight room, let me tell you. And I think that Justice Haynes is one of those guys. See the 82.3 overall rushing grade there from him over at PFF, and you guys can see that in some of the plays that we're showing and highlighting. We'll break down a little bit more of what he does well and what he could improve on here in a second. But I think that, man, Rockman in the chat saying this, I completely agree with it. Contact balance, it's a great quality for running backs, and it is one of the qualities that I weigh the heaviest. When I am evaluating the running back position or any position, I don't equally, like, I'm just using this for example for round numbers for you guys to sort of understand this. Let's say I have 10 categories for the running back position. Long speed, vision, contact balance, catching ability, blocking ability, all that kinds of stuff. I don't weigh all those things equally because some categories I think are more important than others, more translatable, that can mean more, have a heavier return on investment for the position. It's weighted differently in my formula for how I evaluate these guys. Contact balance is one of the ones that weighs very heavily because I think that's very translatable and you have to be able to have it. You see some of the numbers there from Justice Haynes, who I think is great in that area. Now, I talked about guys who I think everybody so far has been better zone rushing scheme players than power rushing scheme players, but Justice Haynes, he's the opposite. You see the good yards after contact per attempt there from him. Let's take a look at some good plays that we have here from Justice Haynes. So the first one, it's this Nebraska play, and you'll see him sort of be patient, be patient, be patient. Okay, now I'm gone. Boom. And when he that's the style and the ball carrier vision style, I should say, of somebody that you want behind those power blocking concepts. Because a lot of times you're running counter, you're running behind duo, it's a pull lead, whatever it is, and you want to wait for your blockers to set up. Well, if you're going to be that kind of a back, not only do you have to have that patience, but one of the most important traits that you could have is explosiveness. You can't be a slow burn of like, yeah, give him a runway and he'll give you a pretty high top speed. You have to be somebody who can go 0 to 30 incredibly quickly, because the second you wait for that block to actually manifest, boom, all of a sudden you've got to be gone. And that's exactly what Haynes does here. He waits, and then he is gone. And that's where Nebraska, they can't recover. These guys, oops, all right, there's an arm tackle, I'm gone. This safety, basically in the same way that it happened with Jeremiah Love, this player should have been able to cut him off earlier. But because of how explosive Justice Haynes is, he's off to the races. That's the type of back that we're talking about here. It's that explosiveness that he has. I think we get another view of this. So this is even better. You see the center do a fantastic job of getting this defensive lineman out of the rushing lane, and then he chips this guy just enough, and that's the timing. There's the timing. And you saw Haynes recognize that with when he put that foot in the ground right about here. I think he takes another step or two, but the second he sees this center get off the double team and come this way, he knows that's the rushing lane, and that's when the speed really starts for him. And you obviously see him get into the end zone there. Let's talk about a play where I feel like we could see a little bit more from him as well. So it's a quick play, and there's not a lot that's going on here. But I think it's worth talking about. It at least paints the picture for you. So this is Haynes, obviously, not getting the football. He's coming out for a route in the pass game. So he gets a little dump off pass. And here's the thing. We just saw what kind of an explosive athlete Haynes is. And yet there's just this hesitancy of kind of what to do when he gets into space. He doesn't know exactly which way to go. He doesn't know how to shake this guy. He's sort of, you could almost tell, even in who he was as a receiver, that he's waiting for his blocks to manifest. And obviously there's nobody out there. And the issue is we need him to be better in space, because the whole goal of blocking up a play really well is to get you into space. I have to be able to trust that when you get to space, you know what to do with it. You can make a guy miss. You can get those yards after contact, yards above expectation. And if I can't trust you to do that, then I think I'm limited in when I can get you on the field. And so that's sort of the overall look at Justice Haynes. And we got one more guy in the top 5 that I want to get to talk about, because we got a couple of other running backs that we got to touch on too. Kaytron Allen, the running back from Penn State, rounds out my top 5 here. And people might be going, whoa, hold on. Are you talking the wrong Penn State running back? What about Nick Singleton? We'll talk about Nick Singleton here in a second. I like Kaytron Allen a little bit better. And the reason why is I think that his skills are a little bit more translatable. I think that when you look at Kaytron Allen, you'll see his rushing grades are better than Nick Singleton's. And his rushing grades, to be honest with you, better than most backs in this class. I think maybe more than any back that's not Jeremiah Love. And the reason why is because he continually gives you more than you would expect for the situations that he's put in. Now, we're obviously seeing him break off some big runs here. These are some of his biggest plays of the season. I don't think he's going to be a home run hitter at the NFL level. But when you see his PFF grades here in a second, you'll see that 90.1 overall rushing grade. You'll see the 89.5 rushing grade behind those power concepts, which lean into who he is as a power rusher. 792 yards after contact this season, folks. He's got almost 800 yards after contact. And as we open up the film here for Kaytron Allen, as you would expect, is what we're going to see right away here. So Allen's getting the ball out of the backfield here. It's right between the tackles. He obviously sees the rush lane manifest to his left to be able to get to the outside. But watch what he does when he gets to the outside against guys that he's got a lot more weight on, right? When you get to the corners, when you get to the cornerbacks, the safeties, he's got a lot more weight on him. And so exactly what you would want to happen happens. Oop, missed tackle. Oop, now I'm slipping that one from the linebacker. I'm even making another guy miss. I'm continuing to fight for extra yards the entire time. That's what Kaytron Allen is. He's going to fight for yards every single time. And you saw him with a little bit of a jump cut there. And we'll get to the bad and sort of why I wouldn't love him in a zone blocking scheme concept. I think he's a good back, and I think he could be productive. But the best course of action for him is to draft him behind a team that runs a lot of power concepts. Now, a lot of teams in the NFL, it's not 100-0. They mix and match, and you got to be able to do both. But when you get him behind those power concepts between the tackles, I think he's got really good vision. And when he gets to the outside, he overpowers those secondary defenders, the corners and the safeties that just don't have the strength to be able to bring him down. As you see, arm tackles won't work. Even wrap-up tackles sometimes don't work for Kaytron Allen. Now, where I have a little bit of reservation with him is sort of what we just talked about with Justice Haynes. And here's a very similar situation where Allen is going to be going out for a swing pass right here. And they're going to get it to him. And look at all of this space. Look at all of this space here that he's got to work with. There's one defender that he's worried about. Now, what I would like to see from Allen is I would like to see him get to the outside. You got momentum. Drew Aller gave you a good pass here. You got momentum here. You don't have to stop here. You don't have to size this guy up. Get to the outside and try to get up the sideline. And unfortunately, he just doesn't want to do that. He's not super comfortable with it. Now, I'll pause this here. There's some guys who are out here who could have rallied to the ball, but you'll see that because he cuts back inside, well, defenders always want you to cut back inside because that's where the help is. So you'll see, all of a sudden, this defensive tackle becomes a factor as well. Obviously, this defender is too. And then everybody is rallying this way to where you are going. Whereas if we see where he's going to get tackled right there, now all of the help is kind of descended upon him. If we would have gotten, if he would have run straight to the sideline, if he continues his momentum, if he trusts his speed, I think he gets more yards. I think that return on investment is then better for when we were getting the ball in his hands at that point. So Kaytron Allen, being able to be a playmaker into space, I think continues to be something that he doesn't trust as much as he does between the tackles because of how physical of a runner he is. But I think that he's got the ability to be that. So that's how I view my top five backs, sort of what they do well, and sort of where they can improve here. We got some questions in the chat. Mr. Mason saying thoughts on C.J. Baxter. I think C.J. Baxter, who is the running back for Texas, not the only running back for Texas that we're going to talk about, by the way. I think the C.J. Baxter is incredibly talented. Former five-star recruit. He's been hurt during his time at Texas. And I just think he's got a lack of snaps right now. His ball carrier vision, we're still working on that. But man, super explosive. He's got the long speed to him. He could end up being a better pro than college player. I could see that from him. And then another question in the chat from Old Mac. Mizzou's Ahmad Hardy is my sleeper pick. Well, Ahmad Hardy is no sleeper pick, but unfortunately, he's also just a true sophomore, so he's not even available here in this class. But don't worry, he will start near or at the top of the RB1 conversation for the 2027 NFL draft. All right, now that we've talked about my top five there, let's talk about, real quick, get to somebody who I think is a rising running back. And I told you we were going to stick with the University of Texas, and that wasn't the only time that we were going to talk about a Texas back with Travian Wisner, who feels like he has been in and out of this lineup. First, he was backing up Jonathan Brooks, and then he was backing up CJ Baxter, and now it just feels like he's the most reliable one of the bunch. You got 3 years now from Travian Wisner, where he has averaged more than 4.7 yards per carry. They use him on third downs. They'll use him on second and long. They'll use him to set the tone on 1st and 10. He's one of those backs who I think that he'll probably be like a mid-round back, probably like a third or more likely maybe even an early day 3 pick. That's just a really solid RB2, RB3 in the NFL. This is a great depth player for you. If this guy's your RB3 at the NFL level, you feel really good about a position that unfortunately gets banged up a lot. These are guys who go through a lot of little injuries here and there throughout the season, and you feel good handing the ball off to this guy when you need to. You see a pretty equal zone rushing grade and gap scheme rushing grade there from him. 32 missed tackles forced this season, which is a pretty good mark, in that 81.2 overall rushing grade. I believe it's the 3rd season where he has had a rushing grade right around or above that 80.0. So I'm a big fan of Quintravian Wisner. I think that he is a sleeper here in this class. Somebody who is falling down the list this is where we'll talk about Nick Singleton, who is an incredibly gifted player. He looks like Saquon Barkley, and anytime you look like Saquon Barkley, people are going to pay attention, and with good reason. But unfortunately, I don't think he trusts how he sees the field right now. And there are too many times when I'm watching Singleton where a pretty obvious rushing lane will manifest, and he doesn't see it. He was kind of focused on going to the outside instead of going to the inside, or inside versus outside, and he doesn't allow his vision to be as creative as he could. And I think that that's really what has to change if he's going to be a difference maker and somebody that gets in a consistent rotation at the NFL level. But right now, he's had good production, decent production throughout his Penn State career, I should say. He's had a couple of 1,000-yard seasons, but even this season, just a 4.5 yards per attempt average. And, 2 years ago it was a 4.4. I mean, that's not the type of production that you want to see from a top 50 overall pick that we talk about with some of these guys. And then Singleton, remember we talked about missed tackles forced, Jeremiah Love at 56, a couple of these guys were in the 30s, 40s. Nick Singleton's just at 18 so far this season. Obviously he's splitting time with Katron Allen, but that average per attempt of how many times he forces a missed tackle is lower than you want. Finally, let's talk about a surprise player. I'm going to go with Terrion Stewart, who is the running back at Virginia Tech. He was at Bowling Green beforehand, and the reason why I'm showcasing him is I know I feel like a broken record at this point saying the words missed tackles forced, but this dude's a machine. He's had some of the highest missed tackles forced per attempt averages that we have seen in college football over the last 3 years straight. For 3 years, he has had more than 40 missed tackles forced in a season. I believe his most ever was 67. It was just so incredibly impressive. I believe that was 2 years ago from him when he was at Bowling Green. He had one of the highest rushing grades in the country at a 93.5. Not getting a lot of buzz just because I don't think he's had the overall output, but man, somebody who's probably going to go in day 3 who might be a training camp and preseason darling for some fans, and might be somebody who really surprises you when he gets the ball in his hands. So that's the running backs, sort of as I see it at this point. More towards an NFL lens, some teams that could be, we said that Jeremiah Love was the first round type of a running back here from this group. So what teams might be interested in him? Well, I think the Vikings would be very interested in him. Aaron Jones could be somebody who is a cap casualty for them. They might move on from him and cut him. And so they might be looking for a full-time back, wanting to be more dynamic there. And maybe if there's not a corner on the board, because I think they could use cornerback too, Jeremiah Love staring him in the face, I think that they could understand what a great and dynamic running game could do to whoever's playing quarterback for them next year. And then I know that people who are sick of the Kansas City Chiefs wouldn't want to hear this, but Kansas City Chiefs, man, they're one of the least dynamic running back rooms in the league here in 2025. It's a big reason why they're sitting here at a 506-6 record. They just don't have the running backs to complement what the rest of the offense can do. They don't have that explosiveness. And so maybe Brett Veach looks at that and feels like they can extend their winning window here if they go get themselves a Jeremiah Love. Last thing that we'll do here today is we've got the Microsoft Copilot here. I asked it a little bit earlier, hey, how many backs were drafted in each round of the NFL draft last year. And so Copilot let us know that had those two backs that were drafted there in the first round, had a couple in the second round as well. And basically just told you whatever you wanted. So Copilot, it's an NFL draft encyclopedia. It's an anything encyclopedia, honestly, just right in the palm of your hand. And so that's the question that we asked it. We were able to get that answer of how many running backs were drafted in each round of the NFL draft last year. And so obviously you guys can do the same if you have Microsoft Surface and Copilot yourself. Oh, Hayden, real quick, really quick, asking this question. This is a good question. Who are some late running backs to watch, maybe 5th or 6th round? I'll shout out one guy that I feel like is getting a lot of love around the country this year. Hollywood Smothers. Phenomenal running back name anyways, independent of the ability. But he is, let's see, how big is he listed at? He's 5'11", 195, so he's more of those speedsters that we were talking about. I think he might even be a little bit smaller than that, but he's somebody who can give you a lot in the receiving game. He can give you a lot in the running game. He's had a couple of games this year with elite rushing grades. He's got great production, almost 1,000 yards on the season there from him. And he's somebody who just, man, he's a jitterbug. He's got a 128.6 elusive rating so far this year. He's so tough to wrap up. He's so tough to get both arms on. And so that's a guy that I'll shout out there. He's having a great year from NC State. Hollywood Smothers, if you haven't seen the highlight reel, you absolutely should. Appreciate everybody watching this show here live. It was fun to go back and forth with you guys there on the chat. We'll be doing this every single week as we go through every position in the NFL, of course, or in the NFL draft, excuse me. And then, of course, we'll do all the great stuff, a little bit more team-centric stuff, the total mock drafts, all that great stuff. Once again, I'm Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus saying thank you guys so much for watching this edition of BR's Draft Board Show. See you guys next week.